Welcome to the Israel Guys and the Land of Israel Network, where we believe that in a world of anti-Israel propaganda and Jew hatred, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. I'm Luke Hilton, here with Joshua Waller, Rabbi Jeremy Gimpel, and unfortunately, Ari Abramowitz is not here with us today, so we definitely will miss him. Hope to have him back next week. Guys, is the Middle East falling apart? That's the big question, because it definitely seems like it. As you guys know, Israel is officially at war with Hamas in Gaza again. We'll get into all that. I mean, Gaza is being pounded right now. There's some official rumors. I'll save that for partway into the show about, is Israel actually going to get strong with Hamas in Gaza and do what they need to do to finish them and end the war? But as far as the rest of the Middle East goes, I mean, you got America talking about cutting aid to Jordan and Egypt for not accepting Gaza refugees. Question is, can Egypt and Jordan survive as countries without American aid? You got Syria obviously falling apart. You got America bombing Yemen like 24/7 right now, the Houthis, over them attacking their ships in the Suez Canal. You got Syria and Turkey in cahoots, working together and fighting against Lebanon.
Luke, one thing I think is just the big question too.
Obviously, there's massive protests going on in Turkey right now. Syria actually sending troops to Turkey as if they have extra troops to spare to go help their neighbors there, and Turkey backing Syria in return to fight against Hezbollah in Lebanon. So I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, and I guess the big question too is the Middle East falling apart before our very eyes? And why is the whole entire world only focused on Israel when there's so many other problems in surrounding countries? And then the other question is, what's next? Like, what is the big thing on the horizon? One
big thing to add to your list here is that somehow Yemen is still shooting rockets out, ballistic missiles at Israel. Like Jerusalem was siren alerts were going on. That the big headline is the Western Wall was being targeted. It's like, what in the world? America is bombing the living daylights out of them. How are they getting? It's almost like Gaza here locally. You know, we're getting rockets out. It's like Israel's been like pounding, and every now and then you get a rocket coming out. You're like, how in the world are these people getting rockets, shooting rockets when they're under fire like crazy? And yet I kind of was envisioning when I saw the thing. I was like, man, I just hope a couple slip through and take out a few monuments there on the temple.
Were there any sirens?
I wasn't sure if that was possible or not.
Samaria?
No sirens were here.
Yeah.
No.
Well, there were sirens all over Judea, sirens around Jerusalem. And, you think like, what is going on? But really, a clarity is being brought here. They're not shooting rockets onto American warships. They're shooting rockets onto Jerusalem.
That's right.
And now the Trump administration said all of the Houthis responsible, all their actions, they're holding Iran responsible. So the truth is just being revealed that the real head of the snake is Iran, and the war is really between Iran and Israel. And that's really what's happening right now. And as you said, the Middle East is quite literally crumbling, meaning it's going through some sort of transformation right now. And we're sort of in the middle of it. And the problem is that this is a weekly show. We sort of look at like the week's review.
Yeah, that's right.
But the truth is, what you need to do is to take a step back and look at it at least with a year's perspective. There used to be a leader named Assad who ruled Syria. He's gone. There used to be Nasrallah. He was in charge of the Hezbollah in Lebanon. He's gone. Now Syria and Lebanon are warring with each other. And for me, it's like, pass the popcorn. I wish both sides the best of luck. I just like the enemies of Israel are fighting each other instead of fighting us.
Right.
Turkey right now has hundreds of thousands of people. Have you seen the videos?
Unreal
of the protests?
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of people. The mayor of Istanbul was seen as sort of a political rival to the head of Turkey right now, Erdogan, and he pretty much just took him out. And so now the people in Turkey are just enraged, protesting what's happening. Jordan and Egypt now, they're getting their aid cut, and who knows what's going to come. And to me, if you don't see things with a perspective of a process, that there's something that's going on here, then you can't really understand what's going on in the Middle East. But you see what's happening in southern Syria. There's a Druze community that are begging Israel to stay in Syria to protect the minorities. And now what's happening between Lebanon and Syria, there's a war there. Lebanon is crumbling as a functioning state. And then it may be that Israel might have to go into Lebanon just to maintain the peace. But those parts of Syria and Lebanon are actually a part of the promised land of Israel.
That's right.
That is biblical Israel. And it's, whether we like it or not, it's not coming back to us through force, but because Israel is acting as the defender of minorities, the land is actually coming back to us in order that we protect the rights of all people. So as the Middle East is crumbling, something new is emerging. And what I believe is that whatever is new is only going to be good and closer to the final redemption.
Well, it's actually interesting what you're talking about, because I saw a report that there's a lot of tribes throughout all these areas that are actually pro-Israel. There's a Syrian tribe that was wanting to, or I call them tribe, I don't know, it's like a clan or whatever, they were intending to give work permits to work up in the Golan Heights. I don't know if you saw that, but like Israel is trying to expand the peace, and this is really seems like what you've talked about a lot on the show is this is not a global takeover. It's a bringing peace to the region through that strength that Israel has, and then allow these people, don't destroy them, allow them to be a part. If they're willing to be a part, be a part. If you want to kill us, you're not going to. We're going to be strong and we're going to take over. But be a part of this. Is if you'd like to be a good, work here, help us build this nation, great.
Yeah, the last time that I met with the ambassador to Israel from America, Mike Huckabee, I said, listen, I want you to pass this on to President Trump. His daughter was very well connected with President Trump at that time. And I said, I have a land for peace plan. He's like, land for peace plan? Like, you're in the deepest settlement in Judea. What are you talking about? I'm like, I would like the Arabs of the region to give us back our land, and we'll bring peace and prosperity, law and order to all of them. Yeah. As soon as the Jews left Gaza became what it is today. Yeah. When the Jews are around, we actually bring stability, peace, and prosperity. So the real land for peace plan is bring us back our land, and then a new era of peace and prosperity will reign. And so now Mike Huckabee, his nomination is continuously being delayed.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And now there really is a call to action now, because it is the left-wing, progressive, woke that are trying to kind of like sticks in the wheels to not allow him to be the ambassador to America, because we've never had such a God-fearing believer ever in such a position of power in Israel.
Well, interesting that as the ambassador to Israel, that's getting held up too, because I mean, you would think that like the Secretary of State, Pete Hegseth, the FBI director, and these other key positions would also have been seriously held up. They've all been confirmed, and you got the ambassador to Israel, which I would assume the Senate has a lot of ambassador positions to confirm, because they're appointing ambassadors to countries all over the world. Israel is the one that's like the focal point.
Well, there really is a call to action now for people to reach out to their local senators and say, listen, we voted in the Trump administration. If he wants Mike Huckabee as the ambassador, he should be the ambassador. And this is really a chance where even the viewers now, they can influence what's happening in America, because I don't think there could be a better ambassador to Israel than Mike Huckabee. And it is the fulfillment of the Song of Ascents, that once we come back, we'll be like dreamers in the land of Israel. And the nations will say, look at what God has done with you. And then it says, wow, look at what God has done with us. Right. And that is his role. And so he's already talking now about relocating the Arabs in Judea and Samaria. He's like, we already have to relocate the Gazans. We should really try to solve this issue in the Middle East, because there's no difference between the Hamas in Gaza and the Hamas and the Islamic Jihad in Judea and Samaria. Right. It's the same Islamo-Nazi movement. They want to kill all the Jews. They want to kill all the Christians, and they cannot stay in the land. But there really is good news now that the foreign minister of Somalia says that's the first country that said, listen, we're ready to take in the Gazans. And it's like, wow, that's like a step in the right direction. And the reason why I like Somalia so much is that it's far away from us. Like once it's like I move them into Jordan, move them into Egypt. I'm like, oh, I don't know, Gaza and Egypt, that's pretty close to each other. Somalia, that's really far away. Like, excellent step in the right direction. The second one was the Ukraine. There's talks now about moving a workforce to rebuild Ukraine, maybe to fight with Ukraine, to do something in the Ukraine. That's nice. That's a good distance. I love that idea. But something's changing and something's going to have to shift. And I'll tell you, here's my opinion about, I always say, sovereignty and settlement.
Yeah,
that's really winning the war.
That's right.
There is no winning without that. That's why in the 6-Day War, we won, because we reclaimed Jerusalem. We reclaimed the Golan Heights. We started building. We started settling. Even if we destroy the Hamas infrastructure, that's not real victory. Victory is when we take over the land, declare sovereignty, and we settle the land. But the truth is, something even more important, because that's in our control, is to figure out how to relocate the Gazans.
Right.
How do we get them out of there? Where do they go? What visas? What countries? All of the brain power that's inventing the Iron Dome with lasers that are able to shoot the missiles in the sky, all of our brain power needs to go right now. How do we take these million and a half Gazans and get them to a new place to live and rebuild their lives? Because without that key, sovereignty and settlement, that doesn't really solve the problem.
Right.
It's definitely a step in the right direction. The real solving of the problem is to remove the evil from the land. And so now that Somalia stepped forward as the first country to actually declare saying we're ready to take him in is a huge step in the right direction.
Which Somalia is, they got a political thing going on where they don't have international recognition on their borders or something like that. So they want to like play that game to try to get recognition. And then, hey, we'll take them because you're going to recognize us. Fine by me. I don't know the problems there. I have no idea. The other ones was...
if they're independent, they said they're willing to take in residents from Gaza if their independence is formally recognized. I would assume by the United States.
I'll recognize whatever they want to recognize.
Jeremy's like, I'll do it.
Jeremy Compels.
Recognize
The Israel guys, Land of Israel Network, would like to formally recognize Somalia's independence.
We have no idea what that means.
We probably just totally got ourselves into trouble there.
Well, the problem is you have no idea what that means because it's probably some neighbors that are really are upset about some land borders, whatever, whoever. I don't know. We didn't research that one. But,
the other topic is
not
in Israel, so the world doesn't care.
Right. Well, yeah, the world has no idea about it because there's no Jews there, which is just a real problem in general. The whole world just focuses, which is really weird. It's such a weird thing. Only if there's Jews does it matter to the world. It's strange. People can, like, all these Arabs are killing each other in Syria, like crazy, unreal, terrible things.
Christians being slaughtered in Syria, yeah.
Nobody's talking about it. No, but it's like, well, that's happening all over the world, though. These atrocities are happening all over the world, but the world is pinpointed Israel.
Guys, jumping in here real quick to let you know that you're going to want to grab your tickets for the Israel Summit. I know you guys have heard me talk about this so much, but we have so many people that are signed up already, and I want to make sure every single one of you has the opportunity to come. I'm going to tell you why this event is different from any other Israel conference or event anywhere in the world, really. You know, most conferences, they bring in a lot of politicians and a lot of leaders, and they have like so many speakers, and they're all crammed in, and it's just one session and speaker after another. Our event has a little bit of a different approach. You're going to recognize some of the names of the speakers, some amazing men and women who are going to be there, but there's going to be people you don't recognize, and that's because our goal is to bring the pioneers of Israel to the United States to meet you. So you're going to see a farmer that was one of the first farmers to plant a vineyard in Judea and Samaria 25 years ago in fulfillment of Jeremiah's prophecy 3,000 years ago. You're going to meet the heroes who have founded farms in Jewish communities and are rebuilding the ancient ruins in Israel's biblical heartland. People have started settlements, defended Israel, IDF soldiers. These are the guys that we're bringing to the Israel Summit to introduce them to you. In addition to that, we have amazing music. We have you guys know the Israel Guys Productions. We have amazing cutting edge films. We have exclusive videos. We're going to premiere at the Israel Summit. We're talking about next level production, next level speakers, and videos and media and music. It's going to be such an amazing inspiration. We're not talking about a dry, boring conference with speaker after speaker after speaker. We're talking about dynamic, exciting, inspirational, educational. You guys are going to come away so empowered to stand up with Israel. You guys need to come. June 9th through 11th, Dallas, Texas. You don't want to miss it. We'll put the link in the description below. You want to get your tickets today.
America is pounding the Houthis in Yemen.
Yeah.
No one really knows. It's kind of like vague numbers that are coming out about what's going on. As soon as Israel re-engaged with Gaza, it's like every day there's immediate statistics. Everyone knows exactly what's happening and when. And, you know, imagine that the world is telling the families of the kidnapped hostages, stop fighting for them. It's so evil. And that's really what Israel is all about.
Yeah.
It is the battleground between good and evil and between right and wrong. And the fact that the world is coming out so harshly against Israel, telling us, yeah, you got family members that are kidnapped, just let them rot in hell. That is absolute evil, and Israel can't stand for it. And so we are literally not just the voice of truth, but our actions are expressing the truth, that we need to fight for what's right and what's good and what's true. And it doesn't matter who comes against us. we're going to do what's right.
Right. Talking about moving Gazans out, Syria is also being talked about moving Gazans to Syria. You don't like that as much, Jeremy, because it's a little close to home.
Too close.
Meaning it's just on the northern border. But who knows? I mean, they're technically they'd fit in probably better with the local Arab tribal regime. What would happen there seems a little bit brutal, and probably in games probably not so nice. But at least they would fit. That would be their society would fit well probably within that.
Well, there's so many Arab societies that they could fit wonderfully with. Meaning, when you think about how huge the Middle East is, how big there's so much land. Do they have to be like inside our land on our borders? I don't know. I would much rather find solutions that are like far off in Qatar, far off away from us.
The fact is, I just had this thought. Tell me if I'm wrong, but aren't these people? I mean, really, the world does not know this, but these people, they're talking about they're going to be misplacing, are taking them and moving them somewhere else. Their world moved these people here to start with,
of course.
So this is not Israel's prop. This was an Arab proxy war. Everybody sent the misfits and these people and tried to this was their long-term attack plan against Israel to delegitimize and to take over land. It was a very land grab mentality.
And a lot of the Arabs moved here because they knew that a life in Israel, even in Gaza or Judea and Samaria, would be much better than wherever they came from.
Wherever the Gazans were, they caused chaos and havoc. And the strategy was, all right, well, let's take these chaotic people and put them right inside Israel. And that's exactly what's happening. Now we're dealing with it up until today. But that's why we have to get them out of here.
But a little bit of pushback. Are they Gazans then?
They're only Gazans because they're there now. I mean, if I moved to Texas, I can start calling myself a Texan, even though I'm from Judea.
You might get comments on that one. I don't know.
Exactly.
Right. But literally, these are called Arabs. They're from
Arabia.
They're from Arabia, or they're from Egypt, or
they're from Egypt, Syria, Lebanon,
Jordan.
Yeah.
They are none of them. I talked to even a local Arab around here. He said you're really hard pressed to find somebody more than 3 generations, which is a pretty go back 3 generations. What was going on here? That was the rebirth of the nation of Israel.
House,
right? Of course.
The multi-billionaire's house just across, a mile from here as the crow flies, or less, who was educated in Texas, and his name literally means like the Egyptian. Like he literally came from Egypt,
Right.
And his nephew is the one building the multi-billion-dollar city of Rawabi, here. And both of those, that's right here in Judea and Samaria. It's like a classic example.
Right.
For sure. We should talk about what's happening in Gaza, the update with the war. Obviously, everybody knows Israel is
was that actually a surprise attack?
Again.
It was actually a surprise attack on Gaza. They weren't aware of what was going on, from what I understand.
I think so, because there wasn't really anything in the news ahead of time.
Well, what happened was that Israel coordinated the strike with America.
Right.
But usually what would happen is the Biden administration would stab Israel in the back and let the Gazans know and let them prepare. And now, because America literally is wind in our sails, has our back, they simply told America, and America didn't tell our enemies, and we were able to somewhat surprise them. But it's not that we did a proactive attack. We said, release our hostages or else. And they said, no, we're not going to release our hostages.
And then we actually followed through.
Going and we're fighting for our hostages. And that's it. I mean, that's who caused this war? It's the Hamas.
Luke, you were telling me about a few things internally that is not confirmed.
The official rumors?
The official rumors are. And they're slightly believable.
Okay, so just a kind of overview of the war. Israel has basically invaded Gaza again. Lots of airstrikes. Now they actually have ground forces in Gaza, central and southern Gaza. They've retaken the Netzarim Corridor. Jeremy, you were talking about how the ridiculousness of the fact that the IDF has had to retake the Netzarim Corridor when they had it just a couple of months ago.
When I first served in the army, my first location was on the Netzarim Corridor. And that is the line that divides northern Gaza and southern Gaza. So we've now pretty much retaken northern Gaza. The northern Gazans now are sort of moving back south. And I have a nephew that is literally right there right now. He just went back into the army last Monday. And he went in a little bit sad. And that's not the right way to go into battle. Just kind of like, really? Am I have to go back into Gaza? We already did this.
Yeah, how many times? Because you're saying you were part of serving in the Netzarim Corridor. The IDF 2 months ago held the Netzarim Corridor.
Now they're taking it back again.
What number is this where they've had to retake Gaza again?
Well, that's what I really want to go to the depths of. Land for peace. That's really where this whole thing started.
Yeah.
We said we will give up Gaza, create a semi-Palestinian state with total autonomy. They have a border with Egypt. They can build Singapore in the Middle East. And we were promised 3 things. We were promised 1, peace and prosperity. 2, we were promised international recognition. And the 3rd thing that we were promised was, peace and prosperity. Peace, prosperity, international recognition.
Yeah.
Well, peace, I don't think we've ever been farther away from peace in Gaza than we are right now. They're literally at war with Gaza. Prosperity, Israel's taxes are only going up now because this war is costing us more than an arm and a leg.
168 billion shekels, I guess.
It's
something
beyond.
like that.
Israel has never been in such a financial, stressful reality on its security side, at least. And international recognition, Spain just came out saying, the hostages, forget about them. It's illegal for Israel to go to war. Israel is committing genocide, and the international recognition has eluded us, let's say. So all 3 promises, peace, prosperity, and international recognition, none of them have come to pass.
Right.
And all that's happened is a new anti-Semitism has been born.
That's right.
A new anti-Semitism on the left, a new anti-Semitism on the right. And as long as we give up what was promised to us, the land, and we show weakness, that will only breed more and more Jew hatred. Jew hatred comes from Jew weakness. If we are strong, if we actually just stay true to our calling and to our promise, Jew hatred will go away. But we are bringing it upon ourselves, no question. We're in Netzarim once again, and it looks like there are a lot of booby traps on the way, but Israel is not going to lose this war in Gaza. We're going to win. It's just unbelievable how many times we have to win.
Right.
So IDF is basically, they're in Gaza. They're in the Netzarim Corridor. They stationed the Golani Brigade along the southern Gaza border. They're pounding Rafah, which is the southernmost city in Gaza.
Wait, did you say that it looked like there was going to be they were planning another October 7th attack on Israel? Did we say that?
You're right. No, actually,
I don't think we talked about that. No, but that was why there was intelligence that said they were planning another major attack. They've been how in the world?
Well, how is the question? Yeah.
How? But they had rebuilt enough that they were planning attack. Did you hear about that?
I did hear about that. Well, the ceasefire gave them time to reorganize and regroup.
I heard they had missiles again, locked under tunnels, ready to go.
Okay, this is from Aleph on X. They said, during the ceasefire, the Al-Qassam brigades worked to extract tools and equipment located in tunnels and manufacturing sites in Gaza, and was counting on a continued ceasefire to resume manufacturing rockets and explosives. So, and it goes on. So basically, they were hoping. And this is what happens every single time. Every single time a war ends or there's a ceasefire.
I was going to say, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out, but I guess
an actual rocket scientist. Yeah,
they are building rockets. I mean, look at these guys. Look at literally, this is what happens every single time. It's kind of a no-brainer. You give these guys space, they're going to build bombs to blow things up, and that's exactly what they've done again.
It shows you how powerful the spiritual force of this jihadic Islam is, that if you take a child from when they're young and early and you indoctrinate them, kill the Jew, kill the Christian, kill the infidel, that's your purpose. That's glory to God. That's you're going to get your olam haba. That's how you're going to get the next world. You're going to get money and you're going to get women and you're going to get this. This world is to die for. Die, kill. Then what they become is like the ghosts in Pac-Man. The ghosts in Pac-Man are programmed to just chase after Pac-Man and try to kill him. No matter what we do, this enemy will never stop. We give them a ceasefire, they'll just use that ceasefire to rebuild and regain and reorganize. And missiles and rockets, that's not needed for an October 7th. What's needed is trucks and kidnappings.
Right.
And that's all that they need. And we've proven how fruitful the kidnappings are in Israel.
Yeah, only did exactly what they expected Israel to do, which worked. Unfortunately, I even heard that they put explosives on the border fence again. I literally heard that
not?
there were actually explosives again, just like the first round in October 7th when that's how they got through. They blew the fence up. I heard that they had actually attached explosives again on the fence. Like there was that level of organized attack within that short period. What was it? A few months of ceasefire. Well, they were able to rebuild that much. Like that's just insane to me.
It's just so hard for us to wrap our minds around because what do we want? People that believe in the Bible, we want to get married. We want to have children. We want to be a blessing. And there is a force in the world. All they want to do is die. All they want to do is kill. So yeah, they'll as soon as they have a little bit of time, let's blow up the fence and let's die in our attempt to kill more Jews. That's actually what they want. That's their desire. And it's so hard for us to wrap our mind around such a demonic society. But that's why we actually have the Bible.
Right.
The Bible gives us a vision of what it was like, meaning there was a god named Molech. And the worship was take your child and sacrifice your own children to their god named Molech. There is no difference today between sacrificing their god to Molech and sacrificing their children to Allah. We're dealing with the same type of evil. And that evil, we're told, get them out of this land or no light will ever come from Zion. We can't coexist with such a dark demonic force. And over again, how much proof do we need?
Yeah.
We cannot coexist with such evil.
Does that go along with the rumors here?
Yeah, I was about to get into the official rumors, except I was going to say one more thing.
One more thing. We're holding everybody out on this.
And the other thing that happened with Hamas, and I saw this too, is that Hamas disappeared as soon as the war started.
Yeah, where'd all those uniforms go?
That, during the ceasefire, you saw these parades and you saw uniforms and pretty well armed militias, right? And the flags and the headbands and the, everything. The war started again. All of that disappeared. You don't see any soldiers, which goes along with, we interviewed an IDF soldier recently, and he said the same thing. He said if he was a D9 commander in Gaza, he said they would be like chasing Hamas terrorists. They would disappear into a house, and a little while later, civilians would appear. Basically, Hamas does not fight. They're not like a normal army. They're not an army. They're just guerrilla terrorists who will do anything and everything they need to blend in with civilians, to get children killed, to use women and children as human shields. Same thing happening again. They felt very bold and confident as long as there was a ceasefire in place. But as soon as it ended, they
all the uniforms
and disappeared again. And now it's just, civilians.
Everybody's turned into civilians again.
Well, the way to fight is to fight like looking like a civilian. When they're just parading the Bebas children because there's a ceasefire, they'll do that in their full gear and their glory and their green bandanas. And that is a challenge that Israel cannot really deal with. Trump gave us huge new bombs. And that's pretty much the green light to say, like, evacuate who needs to evacuate and just demolish Gaza. Just put an end to that society. Like, go biblical on them. Just wipe them out. I saw a beautiful picture. There's a faith-based, I don't exactly know what, caucus in the White House. They actually have an office in the White House, and they brought together all these people of faith, and they were putting their hands on Trump and just praying in the Oval Office. I saw such a beautiful picture. We got to shut that picture if we can find it.
Led by Pastor Paula White, right?
Paula White is the head. And it was just so marvelous to see, because I obviously don't necessarily agree with all the people in that room.
Right.
But I do believe in prayer. And for the first time, I saw in the Oval Office all these people coming together and hopefully letting God take control, letting prayer lead the Oval Office, because we are living in biblical times where our biblical borders are slowly being reestablished, where the Middle East is crumbling and something new is growing. The Zohar, which is sort of the pinnacle of Jewish mysticism, like the cornerstone of the books. And so they say that as the chicken decays, as the egg decays, the chicken hatches.
Right.
And so it's like we're watching this egg decay slowly but surely. Syria and Lebanon and Jordan and Egypt and Turkey. But there's a new chicken that's going to come out soon.
Well, I was going to say, we're talking about the crumbling of the Middle East. But one thing that's not crumbling is the centerpiece, Israel. What's crumbling is everything around it. all of these terror factions and all these things are literally crumbling or fighting each other. Or, Turkey, which was once a pretty strong empire, is now facing some pretty serious fall. I mean, Egypt is facing some pretty serious potential for just a total fall. Like their regimes could fall. Israel, on the other hand, is not looking that way. Israel is advancing.
Well, Jeremy, you mentioned before the show, Israel just had their largest acquisition ever. A company that was sold for like $32 billion.
Google bought Wiz, an Israeli startup, by these 88 to 100 cybersecurity experts that were in the IDF, young guys in their 20s, having a great time in life, and they just sold their company to Google for $32 billion.
So I think that's an amazing signal, right? That's like, if you just pay attention to the news, you would think Israel's about to be destroyed. The entire world hates the Jews, hates Israel, right? But at the same time, you got like Google, one of the biggest companies in the world, is like, oh, we'll take that company right there, and it's like a $32 billion acquisition. Israel's not going anywhere. Israel's only getting stronger, and they're only going to win.
Every time I go to Jerusalem, I am filled with hope and inspiration.
Yeah.
Because Jerusalem has never been this big. Not in the times of David, not in the times of Solomon, not in the times of Ezra and Nehemiah, not in the time of the Maccabees. You go to Jerusalem now and there's cranes everywhere because Jerusalem is being rebuilt.
It's Israel's national bird,
and
right?
Nothing is going to stop that.
Right.
And so as the world is crumbling, the centerpiece, really the heart of it all, continues to grow and continues to be stronger.
That's right.
And also in Judea and Samaria, you look it around and we are getting stronger all the time. And what's beautiful is that there's been an awakening. We now realize, the two-state solution, that is old news. No one is thinking about now turning Judea and Samaria into a new Gaza to hand over to the Hamas or the Jihad or the PLO or any of these other terror organizations. So there's a shift that's happening not only with the crumbling of the countries around us, but there's a crumbling of bad ideas, of falsehoods, and a new truth is emerging. And that's really hopeful.
Right. Luke, for goodness sakes, what's up with the rumors?
Official rumors, yeah. I like rumors. I think the first one is probably more official than the second one, but maybe some of the audience could weigh in too with their what they've seen. So Amit Siegel, and Jeremy, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think he's a very well respected, conservative journalist
of the most well respected.
He went on Israeli television and said that Israel is considering threatening Hamas that for every hostage harmed, a part of the Gaza Strip will be annexed. And I think this is probably the biggest question with Israel resuming the war against Hamas, right? Is what about the hostages? Is Hamas just going to execute the hostages? So obviously Israel has not thought about this. Obviously this is part of their war strategy, and they have a strategy. So according to Meet Siegel, they are threatening Hamas that if they harm hostages, a part of the Gaza Strip will be annexed and be returned to Israel. Second, more unofficial rumor is the Lions of Zion official account on X tweeted out that there are rumors saying that, or basically, if Hamas is threatening to execute hostages, in return, Israel will send them or has sent them a list of senior Hamas prisoners in Israeli jails who will be executed if Hamas dares to kill Israeli hostages. And according to them, they said the formula is not 1-for-1. The games are over, and they said Bibi started speaking Arabic. So
hopefully the exchange would be the same as it was when they got hostages out.
Right. Well, and Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, talked about this.
Right.
Talking about just the ridiculousness of that. There's one Israeli hostage release for 60 Hamas terrorists, right? Just how crazy that is.
Right.
And literally, like you're saying, Jeremy, if Israel would start speaking strongly and saying, nope, you execute one Israeli hostage, we're going to execute 30 senior Hamas terrorists who are sitting in Israeli jails. Would the war be over like that? Would the hostages be released the next day? Who knows, obviously, but
I guess that's the big question.
What needs to happen?
Right.
What is taking us so long?
Right.
What's taking us so long? Why are there any Hamas terrorists alive in Israeli prisons? I honestly don't understand that. They've been arrested for committing war crimes of genocide on October 7th. In Texas, someone who did October 7th, just an individual, they would be put in the electric chair. They would be put to death. How are they alive? That's question number one. Question number two, annexing because of hostages. What does that have to do with anything?
Right.
Can we just annex
Just
Judea
do it
and
because it needs
Samaria
to be
and Gaza
done.
because it's the right thing to do? Because that actually is the definition of winning the war. When we reclaim the land and we remove them from the land, that is winning. Anything else is not winning. The word in Hebrew, lenatzeach, literally means netzach, which is forever. So knocking off the infrastructure of the Hamas or killing the Hamas leadership, it's just a matter of time until new leadership arises. So what is actually forever? Forever is sovereignty and settlement, declaring sovereignty, annexing Gaza, making it a part of Israel, and not just banishing the darkness, but actually bringing a new light to that area. I don't know why the hostages need to die for us to do that. We should have done that on October 10th.
Hey guys, dropping in here to let you know that you should definitely join a community. It's called the Land of Israel Fellowship at thelandofisrael.com. You're talking a fellowship, a weekly fellowship with Jeremy Gimpel and his wife, Ari Abramowitz and his wife, and other amazing men and women every single week. They get together on Zoom, a weekly hour-long, hour-and-a-half fellowship where they study the Bible. They talk about the Torah portions. They talk about current events as filtered through the lens of the Bible. It's kind of like this podcast, except next level. And you guys get to interact with them with a small group of people. It's several hundred people, but a more of an intimate group of people where you get to interact with Jeremy and his wife, Ari and his wife, and other amazing men and women from the land of Israel. You know how the Bible talks about the light going forth from Zion? That's actually talking about the Torah, the Bible going forth from Israel. That's exactly what this is. So I want to recommend to you guys personally, from the Israel guys, that you should join the Land of Israel Fellowship at thelandofisrael.com and go deeper and connect with the land and people of Israel today. We'll put the link in the description below. Now, back to the podcast. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz issued a stark warning to Gaza residents, signaling that Israel is preparing to renew evacuation orders, like we're talking about ground operations. He said, quote, "This is your final warning." And he's referencing Yahya Sinwar and his brother Mohammed Sinwar. He said, quote, "The first Sinwar led to Gaza's destruction, and the second will bring total ruin." So this week there's been Israeli Air Force strikes, and he's saying this is only the beginning. There's going to be ground operations, and he says, quote, "It's going to get much worse, and you will bear the consequences." You know, that is something different about this time around. You have Israel Katz, who is the defense minister. Yoav Gallant was removed a number of months ago as defense minister, and Israel Katz seems to be a much stronger defense minister leading the charge for this.
And we have a new chief of staff of the IDF.
Who's also much stronger.
Yeah. Much stronger.
And we're about to also have a new director of the Shin Bet, which is like Israel's FBI.
Maybe slowly but surely we're sort of like cleaning out the stalls and like rebuilding something new in Israel. I sure hope so. Although I'm very questionable.
Well, I think anybody in the Israeli, public is saying anyone that was on guard on October 7th failed us, and they need to be removed. And that was some people call that the Israeli deep state, including Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu even mentioned that on a text or a tweet X this week in regard, saying a conservative right-wing government is now in, and there's a deep state. He literally texted that out on this government, his personal tweet. So there is like that side of the equation here where there is some legitimate problems, and that led to the breakdown of October 7th, that these leaders really, the public is not accepting it.
The fact that it's taken this long to remove the head of Israel's security, the guy responsible, and it's not just responsible for October 7th. They were building tunnels underneath their noses for years, and we had no idea.
Israel was sending the cement into Gaza for it.
To build them. Yeah.
It's so embarrassing that if that would have happened in any other normal country, people would have resigned just out of their own honor.
Right. One thing that the defense minister said is he quoted back to Joe Biden, and I don't remember President Biden saying this, but he quoted back to Biden, and he said, quote from Biden says, "Return the hostages and remove Hamas, and the doors will be opened for those who wish to leave Gaza for other countries." Do you remember Biden saying that?
He says, if you refuse, the result will be complete devastation.
Right. Yeah, that's nice. But did he say that, or did Biden say that?
or Biden's
What's
Chat
nice is that
GPT,
Biden
maybe.
doesn't know.
Yeah,
Maybe you ask
exactly.
Biden, he doesn't remember. So you can just kind of say anything you want. It's like a fake signature on some automatic whatever. And so you just never know.
Right. A couple of good things happening because of the renewed war. You got Itamar Ben-Gvir being placed back into the government along with his party members. We have a book like every 5 seconds falling over. There's a lot of wind and rain if you guys hear the noise in the background. Hopefully the roof doesn't fall in on us while we're recording here. I just want to bring up one thing because, and don't worry, Josh, I won't read this whole quote, but you got U.S. Representative Jerry Nadler criticizing Israel for two things. And he says, quote, "I am deeply disturbed by Prime Minister Netanyahu's decision to abandon the ceasefire agreement, return to war, and welcome Itamar Ben-Gvir back into the government as Minister of National Security. This choice puts the safety of the remaining hostages, including American citizens, at grave risk and will make an already desperate situation for Gazan civilians substantially worse." So, number one, why is the U.S. representative criticizing Israel for reinstating their security minister? None of their business. And number two, he says, "I am disturbed by Netanyahu's decision to abandon the ceasefire." Like what ceasefire? The ceasefire, the one they agreed to, is over. It was like 6 weeks or whatever. They exchanged, released hostages. Israel released terrorists from prisons.
And
So,
it's
like,
over
what in the
because
world?
Hamas was prepping war.
Also, during the entire thing, Hamas violated it
Right,
over and
that's what I'm
over.
saying,
And
yeah.
they violated the ceasefire.
Right.
I think the roof
Well,
might actually fall in. So y'all just, if you hear that in the background.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, all of these negotiations and all of these deals, the Camp David Accords
Yeah.
with Egypt have been violated so violently. I mean, Egypt now has more military presence in the Sinai, which is just an absolute destruction of the Camp David Accords. And so this ceasefire, of course, immediately Hamas, what is it? When we gave over the Sinai to Egypt, I think the quote was, Israel got a piece of paper and we got all of Sinai. And
Right.
that's how they see it.
Right.
It's an agreement that they don't need to keep. It's just whatever they need to do for that moment and in that way. But tell me a little bit more about this representative. What is his job in the administration? Because he's really coming out against President Trump as well, because everything that Israel does right now is being coordinated with them in the American administration.
Yeah, approved by Trump. And I mean, they have the full backing. So, I think it's just a ridiculous, out of touch reality and shows the massive divide between the right and the left. And also just like common sense, like to think Israel's abandoning a ceasefire and they're, endangering the hostages. Like the hostages were not in danger before. And like it was working, like Israel bent over backwards. They agreed to Trump's, envoy, what's his name, Steve Witkoff. They agreed to the agreement that he came up with, and they presented to Israel and Hamas. Israel said, "Great, we agreed to it." And what happened? Hamas absolutely did not agree to it, and everything fell apart, right? So there was no agreement, there was no ceasefire, and Israel said, "You don't release the hostages, we're going to pound you again." And now we're invading Gaza until the war's over. And they've also said, at any point you can release the hostages and you can surrender, and the war will be over tomorrow.
Well, what I like about what's happening in a few different scenarios is things are going to the heart of the matter. So one is that President Trump said, all right, anything the Houthis do, Iran is responsible. The Houthis are now shooting onto Jerusalem. But something else that happened either this week or the end of last week is that Israeli MKs and ministers went to Congress saying, will they support Israel's sovereignty over the Temple Mount? That's Minister Shlomo Kari, Minister Miki Zohar. I mean, relatively players in the Israeli political spectrum, although not Netanyahu and not some of that other upper echelons, but these are real players. And what they're saying is the Hamas declared this war the Al-Aqsa flood, the Temple Mount flood. All right, well, let's go to the heart of it. Instead of executing terrorists and instead of annexing land, let's go to the heart of it. What this war is really all about is the Temple Mount.
That's right.
And to me, that really goes to the heart of the issue. And what's nice is that they're just asking for freedom of religion. Who can be against that? What's amazing about the progressive wokes is that they've turned out to be people that are supporting the Hamas, a terrorist organization. They support men beating up women in sports. They support destroying electric vehicles that are good for the environment.
Yeah.
Like the liberal woke progressives have just turned out to be such upside down backwards people. And what I think is that freedom of religion for all people, a house of prayer for all nations. Because right now, it's a house of prayer for one nation. That's an abomination. and
Right.
desolation.
Well,
so,
and the house of prayer for that one nation, they don't care or respect it at all. Like right now, it's Ramadan. There's videos of the Muslims sitting on their breaking their fast, eating, playing. They're not up there going up there to worship and respect the holiness of the site. They're just claiming it as another piece of land that they want to keep away from Israel.
right. You see a lot of times just kids playing soccer up on our holiest site. It's really unbelievable. And I think really that's what this is all about. The only thing in the world that you can open up the Bible, read, look at in the world, point your finger at it and say, the Bible is true, God is real, is what's happening here in the land of Israel.
That's right.
That's it. Everything else is theology. Everything else is a belief. Everything else is something up there, up high in the sky. The only real witness that the Bible is true, that God is real, that we're on a process toward redemption is Israel. And so we see this like the battle between good and evil and truth and lies. And that's why we're considered to be a light to the nations. And then what is the opposite of light? It's darkness. What's the opposite of truth? Falsehood. We are literally right now at war with darkness.
Right.
And that's what this is about. And that's why the Temple Mount is so important. As
Right.
long as there's not freedom of religion and Jerusalem is not a house of prayer for any and all nations. It doesn't matter where they came from. In Solomon's time, it's not like there weren't idolaters then. It was like people came from all over the world. No one converted to Judaism. They just came from every nation, and every nation was accepted and welcomed.
Right.
And they came to worship the God of Abraham.
Exactly. That is the dream of Jerusalem, and that's really what Israel's fighting for.
I think for me, it's personal because I remember going up early, was it 2014, sometime around then. And I was literally, I would call it attacked by the Waqf, the Arab Waqf. We talk about, this is not just a hypothetical thing for me. When we're having this conversation, I'm literally thinking about the moment I was grabbed by two Arab men while I was just walking on the Temple Mount.
Wow.
Not even doing it, not even praying, not even, just literally walking on the Temple Mount. They saw me as a Christian as a threat, just like they would a Jew as a threat. You're not allowed to be here. This is Muslim territory. And I was literally dragged off the mountain, thrown out.
I mean, can you imagine the insanity of that? In the democratic state of Israel, Jews, Christians cannot go to our holiest site and pray.
Right.
I can go anywhere I want in Nazi Germany, into any church, into any Catholic area, and I can pray and do whatever I want anywhere I want. And in Israel, where the cornerstone of democracy is freedom of religion, Jews can't pray at our holiest site. The last time that I went up on the Temple Mount, I was actually arrested.
You were.
I was arrested because at that time, the Arabs boycotted the Temple Mount because they had put up metal detectors to make sure that there wouldn't be any more terror attacks on the Temple Mount. And Arabs said, all right, we're boycotting the Temple Mount. And I said, finally, a boycott that we can get behind. They're boycotting Israel in the right way now. Excellent. So I'm going to go up there. Now there's no one to offend. There's no one to upset. I'll be able to finally pray. And there I went, prayed. I started to bow down, and immediately a Jewish police came and arrested me because they said, listen, this is the status quo. This is what needs to be done. But I want you to know, because of Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, that's actually starting to change now.
Yeah.
Which so many people hate him, and I still can't figure it out. I love the fact that he's a strong Jew that is patriotic to his people.
He believes in the land of Israel. He believes in the Jewish people. Believes in the God of Abraham, and that's just
honestly,
for everybody that
hates him, I would just say he would be a great Texan as well. Can we just say that? For all the strong, patriotic Israeli.
Texas.
There's a lot of Christians that have misinformation about him as well. Obviously he doesn't know a lot about Christians, and that's just not a thing. It's not one of his main things. His main thing is,
let's just say he's not part of his job as an Israeli minister in the government is not
for security.
It's to develop the land of Israel, to protect the land of Israel, to build up the Jewish nation. So
he's not in charge of tourism.
One of his goals is not working with Christians.
No, but people frame him as somebody that's no, his job is security. He's doing an amazing job at it. He's a strong Jew. He's a very Texas-minded Jew of get off my land. If you want to hurt me or harm my people, get off. And so I just say that out there because he was just welcomed back into the government. A lot of people are like, oh no. I'm like, oh yes, amazing. We have more strong Jews. There's a lot of people, and there's a lot of reason to. I mean, a lot of people, I'm not in the nitty gritty sense. A lot of Jews are like, he's not necessarily a politician, whatever. That's fine. I'm just saying in general, I love it when Jews stand up on their own 2 feet and say, this is our land. We're going to be strong. We're going to be like a Texan and we're going to just say, this is the way it is.
Well, his party is actually called Otzma Yehudit, which is
Right.
Jewish power. And that's exactly what we were talking about before. When there's Jewish weakness, that's what breeds evil. That's what breeds anti-Semitism. That's what breeds Jewish hatred. And he's saying the only solution now is Jewish power and strength. And that's also why God is referred to as Hashem Tzvaot, as the master of legions, the master of the legions of the armies of Israel. Because when Israel wins in wars, the world respects us. All the world respects us. After 1967, when we reclaimed, imagine in 6 days, this war has been now more than a year and a half. Judea, Samaria, the Sinai, the Golan Heights, Jerusalem, in 6 days. It was, looking back at that now, we can only appreciate and recognize what a miraculous victory that was. And so when Israel wins, when Israel is victorious, when we are led by the master of the armies of Israel, by the master of legions, that's when the world finally recognizes who Israel is.
Pulling this full circle. If we're talking about Temple Mount, but we're also talking about the crumbling of the Middle East, if indeed America pulls away from supporting Egypt and Jordan. Jordan now is really the sovereign of the Temple Mount, along with this like security with Israel, and this like they're allowed to keep the security, but they're not really fully sovereign there. And this is a whole complex political thing going on. I think we're moving into an era of obviously American support for Israel, which could translate into full annexation, not only potentially of Gaza, but also of Jerusalem, the Temple Mount. And that
let's just say sovereignty, because annexation,
sovereignty.
Just to clarify,
correct.
Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria is Israeli territory.
That's right.
They just have to decide to be sovereign.
And sovereignty is the correct lingo. You would use, the only reason why you would use annexation if it was territory being
You could make a case for Gaza
that
because Israel willingly gave up. Not willingly, but the government of Israel agreed to give up Gaza. So we could make that.
Jerusalem is sovereign territory of the nation of Israel.
Israel
Has
just
been
has to
so
act sovereign,
since the days of King David and beyond. It's obviously the ancestral homeland, the capital of the nation of Israel, and we still, even to this day, many people think that that's obvious. Jerusalem's Jewish. No, it's actually not. It's about to be. And we feel like that this is a monument.
So would you guys say maybe we're looking at Turkey crumbling, Lebanon maybe crumbling, Syria definitely crumbling
already?
Jordan and Egypt, can they actually survive as nations without American support or Western support? Would you say Middle East crumbling, Israel's getting stronger? And maybe that includes sovereignty in Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria. Maybe it includes Gaza Strip being annexed. I don't know.
Parts of Syria. And
if Jordan falls apart, then somebody's got to take care of that area. And like you're saying, Jeremy, why can't the world wrap their head around this? The Jewish people come in and control a land or are governing a people. Doesn't matter who it is, Jew, Arab, Christian. There is peace and prosperity. It may just be for a single time. And for some reason, there are a lot of people around the world that cannot wrap their minds around it.
We literally are at a moment where we could be going back to the opportunity the Jewish nation had 100 years ago with the Balfour. That land mass is literally similar to that of the biblical land map of Israel. Israel may be sitting at an opportunity like they were, what was that, 19, something like that, 17, something like that. We could be sitting at another moment where the Jewish nation has to decide. Will they? It's not there yet, but it looks like we could be moving in that direction where Israel has the opportunity to govern this biblical land.
I'll tell you, a couple of weeks ago, I had an insight into a prophecy in the book of Isaiah where it says, in its time, I will hasten it.
Yeah.
And then there's the question, is it in its time, or is God going to hasten the coming of the redemption? And Achishena, I will hasten it, also means, and I will push them. And so it seems like this is going to happen whether we like it or not. Israel is being pushed into a situation where we have to remove the Gazans from the land, where we have to take care of the minorities in Syria, where we have to we can't just leave a vacuum, because a vacuum in Jordan is inviting ISIS. And that's all we need now is Hezbollah over there, ISIS over there, and Hamas over there.
And you were saying before, the Syrian Druze are like begging Israel to be at peace with them and to work with them.
And to be the defenders of them.
Right. So, I mean, what's going to happen? What's next? Middle East crumbling, Israel getting stronger. I don't know if we want to give any
tuned for next week.
predictions, but
That's what the deal
it's
is.
like changing. I'm like seeing the headlines of Israel's actions in Gaza. They've launched limited ground operations as we speak, like happening literally right now as of this recording. So, I don't know. I think there's a lot of hope.
So let me give one idea from the Torah to give us a little bit more strength going
Sounds
forward.
good.
This is the Torah portion of Vayakhel. And this is the final Torah portion where they really build the tabernacle, a home for God in the world for the first time. And Vayakhel means, and Moses assembled the people of Israel to sort of give them that instruction. But Vayakhel in Hebrew comes from the same word as Kehillah, which means community. Now, there were a few stars. There was Bezalel, who was really the artist. But what it tells us is that to really build a dwelling place for God in the world, you need a kehillah. You need a community. And to me, that's really what this show is all about. That's what the viewers are all about. That's what the Land of Israel Fellowship is all about, is can we build a global community of like-minded people with one heart, with one mind, with one prayer for Israel? And that will ultimately build a dwelling place for God in the world. That's what this is all about. It's really about creating a new community.
That's right.
Guys, if you want to join a community, Land of Israel Fellowship is an amazing community to be a part of. They meet every single week virtually, hundreds of people from all over the world. And we'll put the link down for that in the description below, thelandofisrael.com. Also, the Israel Summit. We've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people signed up. We've also just signed up some new speakers, Eric Stackelbeck. We got an amazing farmer from Judea and Samaria we're going to introduce you guys to. Amazing lineup. If you guys want to get tickets, you better get those. Put the link for that down in the description below. June 9th through 11th in Dallas, Texas. It's going to be an amazing gathering of hundreds and thousands of supporters of Israel from all over the world. You don't want to miss it. Guys, what are your predictions? What do you think? What's happening next? What's next for the Middle East? Put a comment in the comment section below. We'd love to see your conversations and interact with you there. Make sure you subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. And as always, stop listening to the lies and propaganda and connect with the truth of what's happening here in Israel. We'll be back next week here at the Israel Guys and the Land of Israel Network.